Hi, it's Lil from Made by Marley, and today I'm going to be making this Easter sign with the rabbit and the hanging sign and the frame. So follow along if you want to know how to make this. So here I am in the workshop looking glamorous, just attaching the top part and the bottom kind of stanchion piece of the frame together. I've just put a great big screw down both of them to hold them together tightly, and then I screw this onto what I was going to use as the base, but later on I swap it out for a standard lamp base, and the two hooks I put on the top are from old sash windows. On the top of the frame I just screwed them on. Sorry, it's the camera angle, I had it the wrong way round. So here we have on my painting mat outside the base with the wooden piece that the sign is going to hang on, ready to be stained, a large rabbit, which is one of our craft blanks, and the sign. And here we have the stanchion piece that's going to hold the sign all stained. I stained the rabbit, even though I'm going to coat the rabbit in white chalk paint. I wanted the dark underneath, and I gave the wooden piece that was the sign some stain as well. Once they were completely dry, I used Rust-Oleum white chalk paint. I don't know why, but the camera angle again is wrong. I apologise. So I painted my large rabbit, and then what I did was I got a warm wet cloth and I went and touched round all the edges. Now you can see the way I've painted the chalk paint on. I wanted a rough rustic look. I wanted a sort of vintage feel, so I didn't give it two coats. Some areas I did, some areas I didn't, and I've just left it kind of the way it does, and I've rubbed back the edges. That's me with some gel stain, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to brush some of this black gel stain just into the edges and kind of soften them out with a cloth, and I do that all the way around the rabbit and the hanging sign, which is going to the piece that forms the hanging sign. So that's all I did with that, just with the brush, just rubbed it into the edges. So here they are, the rabbit. Sorry, the light's not great on this video. It's such a beautiful day. I just wanted to be outside, so I was desperate to just find something that I could do outside today. So this is what I chose to do. So, and I put some dark black stain on that as well. I made myself a stencil, and I've tried to make it, it's an Easter themed sign, so I've made it around the Easter bunny, but it's a Chocolatier sign. So a chocolate shop, he's a chocolatier, the white bunny chocolatier, and what he makes. And this is the hanging sign that's going to form part of the other piece of the sign. Bienvenue, it says. I think that's kind of like a welcome. If you're French and you're watching this, I apologise sincerely. This is my second year French. I didn't go on and do it at a higher or anything, so this is the best I could do from the things that I could remember. I remember lapin was rabbit, but that was about a stretch after that. So I've tried my best, but I think it makes sense. I showed it to my children, teenage children, and they seemed to think it was okay. So it might be completely wrong, and they're just letting me do this. So this is me lining up my silhouette stencil for my sign and taking off my transfer tape. Now I stencil in each one of those with some white chalk paint first, and I saw this Ginger Chick Rehab. I don't know if you ever watch her on YouTube. She stencils in the colour of her sign first to prevent bleeding. Now, I generally don't get too much bleeding, but I wanted to see, really, to be honest with you, whether this would make a huge amount of difference to what I was doing. I did feel it made it kind of thicker, and I had to kind of sand a little bit more to knock it down. But as for bleeding, to me it was good to do. So if you watch Ginger Chick Rehab, then you'll see her doing this. Now I've got some black acrylic, not chalk paint, because it tends to get powdery when you sand it. and I want to distress this sign. So this is me just going back over where I've sponged in the stencil with white over the top with the black acrylic, making sure that I don't miss any bits. There's a couple of wee bits I have to touch up at the end where I've touched, but I tried to mask as much of it off as I could. If you don't have a big rabbit, then you can just make a hanging sign. You don't have to have the rabbit. It's just that I wanted to make mine sort of Easter sort of feel, and this is what I did. And I didn't want it overtly Eastery, so I decided chocolate and rabbits kind of made Chocolatier. I don't know why, I just love chocolate. So that's me pouncing away there with my makeup sponge, just getting my stencil done, ready to remove it, and it comes off perfect. There's no bleeding or anything, and I just get my weeding tool now and I get all my other little bits and pieces out of the middle of each thing. So I'm quite happy with that. Good show. Set it to the side now. Onto the rabbit. Do the same with the rabbit. Bit long-winded, I know, watching me do this, but sometimes I always think if other people are doing these things, it's therapeutic. So I don't know if you find it therapeutic or not, watching me go dance around this sign. So I'm just being careful, making sure that I get all my little bits out of my words. So it says the White Rabbit and Company, fabulous truffles, nugget and pralines, I think. And it says Chocolatier down the side. So I just kind of put it together with a whole load of words that I quite liked and used a couple of different fonts just to give it a little bit of interest. And I like to just make up my own signs. I very rarely go and get somebody else's. I just make them up as I go along. I think I know what I want and I just do it. So whether it's right or wrong, you're probably thinking that looks messy, but I like it. So there was a couple of bits that didn't quite stencil. I was happy with those because they make it look older. And there was this bit here where for some reason I didn't go around it, so I'm just getting my acrylic paint pen and just painting around it to fix it. I've got a little bit of white and I'm just touching up those black bits there that haven't transferred perfectly. This is me with a little bit of white on my brush, just making sure there's no kind of smudges in the middle of it. I don't want smudges. I don't mind the rustic, shabby chic look, and I like distressed and I like vintage, but I don't want it to look like I didn't care about it when I made it. And this is just me giving it a really good knockback with the sandpaper and sanding some parts away to make it look old. And there we go. So the next thing I want to do is I've decided that I'm going to put some sort of flowers on it. Now I toyed with decoupage in it, but I decided I had these, I don't know what, when I was young we called them scraps. They come on a sheet and you cut them out. So these are vintage scraps, and I just Mod Podged them on. I put 2 coats of Mod Podge over the top of them, and I also, even though the wood has been sealed, I forgot to say as well, I have sealed the wood with varnish, but even though that it's been sealed, I'm just putting some Mod Podge over my lettering as well, just to make sure it is not going anywhere. And can I just say, even though it was stained and it was a waterproof outdoor stain, I still put the clear varnish up the edges, especially on the MDF, so it doesn't separate if it's left outdoors in the rain. So this is me just sticking down the roses at the top. Now I didn't go crazy here. I didn't want to over decorate it, and I mean sometimes I have to be held back because as far as I'm concerned, less is always not very good. I always need more, but I decided that I was just going to put a few little flowers, sort of accents at the top and a little bit at the bottom of the hanging part of the sign. And on the rabbit part of the sign, I've just got a few kind of flowers interspersed on it. I put a little flower on his nose and did that. So I didn't go crazy. And I'm making sure plenty of Mod Podge, and I do go back and give that a solid other coat of Mod Podge. But you can see me here just going, this is me starting to just paint straight down my letters. Try and brush out your brush strokes as you go so it doesn't look obvious that you've done this. It's just to give it another level of it being, weatherproof. Now the acrylic on the varnished chalk paint should be fine. I mean, acrylic kind of tends to stay about, but to prevent it kind of flaking and chipping, after a bit of time, it's probably good to just do this step. So I went off camera after this and did another coat, just so that it was solid. So that's that part of the sign done. And now I go on to gluing the flowers on the bunny. And as I said, I've just kind of laid them out. There was no particular, depending on where I could really fit them in. I mean, it was a little bit like over gilding the lily. It didn't really need it, but I wanted it to be there, so I made it work. So I'm just putting a kind of couple of roses there, sticking them over the top of each other, and making sure that there's plenty of glue under my edges and round my edges, so it won't lift up if it gets damp. And that's me again, running over with the Mod Podge to make sure my letters are waterproof. So this sign didn't take very long. The longest part was because I cut my stencil words out all over the place to save as much vinyl as I can from one sheet. The hardest part for me was just cutting and weeding all the different things and then gluing it onto the sign, because all the paint jobs and everything else were really quick, and it was put together really quickly. I'd put the frame and the base and everything together the night before in the shed, so it wasn't a big make. It wasn't a very long make. And if you have bits of wood that you can make the frame, and you can find, I mean, you could even hang like old frames and things from them. I was kind of trying to make, the kind of old-fashioned like swinging signs outside doors. That's what I was trying to kind of achieve with this. I don't know whether you think I have or not. You can let me know in comments if you think, this is something that I've managed to achieve. But I just thought it'd be really good for this time of the year as something to sit out in the garden beside the back door, or just as it's coming on to Easter, because it's kind of tongue-in-cheek Easter. It's not overtly, in-your-face Easter, but it's, as far as I'm concerned, bunnies and chocolate, that's kind of a good start. So this is what I did. Just making sure that I coat all the letters. That's the established part at the top. I decided not to put that flower in the middle of the year. I thought it looked a little bit cartoony, and I put a little rose on his nose, and I glue that on. Now I've only done this sign one-sided because I intend for mine to sit facing the back facing a wall, kind of towards a wall, because I want people to come around the corner and see it just sitting there. But that's it really. The next part, you see me just hanging it all together. It's done at that. So these are the two hooks that I put up the top to, I've only got one in at the moment, but I'm just showing you where the other one's going to go. It's going to go like that, and they're going to be hanging facing in. And I got a little bit of dowel to thread through it to hold my sign together. And it swings just the way I wanted it to. And here's the finished sign. And I've staged it out with some wooden eggs and a couple of daffodils from my garden. But it has came out really nice. It's something that will last. And it's really cute for this time of the year. And you could change it around and make a summer one. You could go to town at Christmas. But anyway, I've been Lel from Made by Marley. If you like this video, please feel free to share it and subscribe. Thank you.